Hello, everyone. Welcome to another video being done by the Academy of Adoption and Assisted Reproduction Attorneys. Today, we are covering the state of New York. And as you can see, we have many qualified art professionals in the state of New York and as fellows of the Academy. And not all of them even were able to join us today. But let's introduce you to those that were, and we'll get a good conversation going about New York. Rebecca, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure. Hi, I am Rebecca Mendel. I'm with the law firm Rosen, Steinhagen, Mendel in New York City. My practice, we deal with assisted reproduction, adoption, foster care litigation, and family law. I was very much involved in the drafting of the Child Parent Security Act over 10 years ago and worked very hard on it for 10 years, lobbying with this wonderful group of people. And I am so thrilled that it is the law in New York. And I look forward to presenting with everyone on it.
Excellent. Robin.
I'm Robin Fleischner. I have a boutique law firm in New York City. I'm licensed to practice in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. I would say that family formation first was my life and then became my life's work. I adopted 2 children before IVF was even available in the United States. And the burgeoning of assisted reproduction is truly miraculous. And I feel so privileged to be part of the legal profession, helping people form families through assisted reproduction.
All right. And Melissa, if you could introduce yourself for us.
Sure. So my name is Melissa Brisman, and I'm licensed in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts. I too have a family formation practice that basically only does reproductive law and various agreements and parentage orders. All my kids were born this way as well, and I'm happy to be a part of the group.
Great. Greg.
Hi, I'm Greg Franklin. I practice with Ashcraft, Franklin and Young. We're in Rochester, New York. And about 90% of my practice is assisted fertility and adoptions. I'm also the adoptive parent of a son who was born in South America, and we adopted him in the last century sometime.
I love that. That was a subtle way of saying that. All right. And Amelia.
Hi, I'm Amelia Demma. Many of you know me as Amy Demma, Law Offices of Amy Demma. I have been in the field of assisted family formation for 20 years. I started working at Resolve National on federal legislation for an insurance mandate, which we do not yet have, but Resolve continues with that battle. It's been my pleasure to be a part of the New York team in helping to get the Child Parent Security Act passed. We are all thrilled and delighted to finally be able to bring these services to New Yorkers.
Wonderful. Lori.
Hi, my name is Lori Goldheim, and I am very happy to be here. My practice in adoption goes back over 30 years, and I've been practicing assisted reproduction for a little bit more than 10. I served on the board of the Academy as a trustee for about 7 years and served as the president from 2014 to 2015. So it's great to be here and be part of this group.
Elizabeth.
Hi, my name is Liz Swire-Falker. I'm an art attorney based in Westchester and Manhattan. I have been practicing in art law since 2004. Before that, like many of my colleagues, I went through adoption, art, family formation, issues, infertility. And before that, I was a commercial litigator. I am delighted that New York is so surrogacy friendly, and I'm happy to be presenting today with my colleagues.
Excellent. Brian?
Hi, my name is Brian Esser from the law office of Brian Esser. I'm based in Brooklyn, New York. My husband and I have 2 children through adoption, ages 8 and 11. I've been practicing in this area for about 10 years now. And in addition to my day job, I am a former board chair of the National LGBT Bar Association and a founding board member of Equality New York, a statewide LGBTQIA advocacy organization.
Great. Casey.
I am Casey Copps-DePaula. I'm a partner at Copps-DePaula Silverman, located in Albany, New York. I practice in the fields of adoption, assisted reproduction, surrogacy, and also estate planning that I offer to my assisted reproduction clients. I also am a co-founder of New York Surrogacy Center, which is a New York licensed surrogacy matching program.
Denise, last but not least.
Hi, I'm Denise Seidelman. My law firm is Rumbold and Seidelman. It's in Nyack, which is in Rockland County. I practice throughout New York State. I was very involved in drafting the Child Parent Security Act, and I was thrilled to be able to work with all my colleagues and finally in the Academy and being able to gain passage of the bill. I'm also an honorary board member of Family Equality and LGBTQ+ advocacy organization, and I'm thrilled to be here today. Thank you.
Great. All right. So I'm not an attorney in New York, and many of you were referencing the name of your new laws in New York. So let's break it into pieces for the public. Rebecca, how does genetics play a role in New York? So, you know, intended parents are going through these videos going, can I go to New York if I'm not genetically related to my embryos or not?
Well, so right now, so in terms of coming to New York does have some restrictions on coming into New York, but for New York intended parents, genetics is not necessary that you be genetically related to the embryo. People can use donated gametes. They can be donated from one intended parent or both intended parents. New York looks at an intent-based analysis and has specific requirements to meet in order to get the judgment of parentage, but it is an intent-based analysis that is specifically not based on genetics.
Great. And so Robin, the LGBTQ community, as they're looking at New York as an option for them, is it friendly for them?
New York is super friendly to LGBTQ families. The LGBT community was a huge factor in gaining the passage of our new comprehensive family formation law, which recognizes the rights of all kinds of families. And LGBTQ families can get orders of parentage for donation agreements and surrogacy agreements. And we're an extremely friendly LGBTQ state.
Great. Now, Amelia or Amy, there's been, you guys have been talking about this name of your statutes. What, can you tell us what that big umbrella is of the new statutes that New York got?
Yeah, so the name of our legislation, which I think was introduced in 2013 and passed in 2020 during the pandemic, that's how committed our legislature was to making New York surrogacy friendly. So during the pandemic, the legislation passed, it became effective law in February of 21. It's called the Child Parent Security Act. And that really was the objective in going in. Denise referenced that she was a drafter, Rebecca was a drafter, I believe Lori was a drafter of the Child Parent Security Act. And the intent was to establish security for all families formed in New York.
Great. Greg, is New York one of those states where things are procedurally really different depending on where in New York you are?
That's a good question. There are definitely differences in court procedures from upstate versus downstate. I practice basically Western New York, and the courts here are extraordinarily friendly to orders of parentage. We generally don't need to have court appearances. Downstate, things are a little bit more complicated, but we are a very, very, very friendly state for any of the procedures we're talking about here today.
Great. Melissa, you know, although we're talking about reproductive law in general, so we're talking egg donors or surrogacy matters, but in a big picture, the stages that anybody that's just now getting into this area, wanting to have a family utilizing assisted reproductive technology, what are the big stages for them to go through?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing is really you want to go see your doctor because the laws are very important, but you want to see if this is right for you. So a lot of people will come and say, oh, I need a surrogate. I have been trying to have a baby with my husband for a year and nothing's happening. But that doesn't necessarily mean you need a surrogate. You might need an egg donor, you might need a sperm donor, you might have blocked tubes, you might not need anything. Like, your first stop really shouldn't be your lawyer. First, we need to find out what you need, right? And then, certainly if you need something, then it is good. Your lawyer might know what's the best agency to go to, locally, what doctors have the best reputations, what are maybe the best steps for you to take. But first and foremost, medically, we need to find out what you need. And those pieces normally start with your doctor.
Great. So Lori, the contract stage, what can a fellow with the Academy help potential parents with when it comes to this stage of the contract?
In New York State, you can either pursue a private journey or one through a licensed agency. And that is also unique to our law, that the agency must be approved and licensed. And in that case, if they're working with an agency, a lot of the terms that go into the contract are provided and negotiated beforehand, and we incorporate them into the agreement. If it's a private journey, it may look a little bit differently in the negotiation process, but the agreement will incorporate all of those terms and also consider all of the what ifs, and a lot of them are the unfortunate, God forbid this happens. Well, what happens if she's already pregnant? What happens when the baby's born? Who takes custody? Who's responsible? Will the payments continue? And so we make sure that the agreement is compliant, first of all, with the statute. And there are a lot of requirements in our statute that are protective of all the parties and that incorporate all the terms that are necessary to protect all the parties.
Great. So Elizabeth, obviously New York with the new law, you've got a system in place, but what is when they're obtaining their parentage order, what is generically what that process looks like? I know, a lot of clients have different scenarios and circumstances, but.
Well, one thing that I like about the statute is that if you have complied, as Lori was talking about, and your gestational surrogacy agreement fully complies with the statute, when your attorney goes to file a petition for a judgment of parentage, the court really doesn't have much discretion other than to grant that petition and to give you your judgment of parentage. If you're not in full compliance, the paperwork that gets submitted to the court might be a little bit more complicated, but as other people have referenced, it goes to an intent-based analysis, and the court looks to the intent of the parties as expressed in the surrogacy agreement and the best interests of the child. So one way or the other, with a good attorney helping you prepare all of your paperwork, it should be a pretty straightforward process. And I think that's a real advantage of working in New York.
Wonderful. Brian, if I had $1 for every time a reproductive lawyer has been asked this, but how long does it take to get a birth certificate in New York? Right? They all want to know.
Oh boy, regrettably, the short answer is it takes a while. I mean, we have two birth registrars in the state. New York City and New York State maintain their own birth registries. New York City has been taking on the order of 10 to 12 weeks to issue a corrected birth certificate, and the state has been roughly on the order of 5 months. So I am counseling my clients to be extremely patient with the birth certificate process.
Our modern world, right? When we answer pre and post COVID answers, but great. Now, Casey, with the birth certificate, does New York have a passport office in the state of New York? How convenient is it for intended parents who are international?
Well, in New York, we actually can't work with international intended parents, so that hasn't been something that comes up in our practice, but we do have passport offices, a few of them throughout New York.
Okay, great. And that was a good answer. That's what the public needed to hear, right? And Denise, what does it mean to work with this group of professionals and be a member or a fellow of the Academy?
Well, first, the Academy at large was incredibly helpful in the effort to gain passage of the bill. We really do benefit from the brightest minds across the country in the Academy who already had statutes passed in their states So people were incredibly gracious in sharing information as we were drafting the bill. And then in terms of the New York effort, I mean, we really had to come together as a group, as a community. It required a lot of work. There were outside organizations that helped us, but the members of the Academy really did carry the laboring oar. And I think people, you know, the people on this call have all really dedicated themselves to gaining passage and to trying to create a bill that they thought would be the best bill possible. And really, I believe the bill that was passed in New York is becoming and will be a model for states across the country. So I'm very proud of our organization and the New York Fellows here.
Wow. Everybody in the country is proud of the New York Fellows. It was a tremendous amount of work. If for anybody that is watching this video and you want to learn more about New York and you want to talk to one of these fellows individually or one of our fellows that weren't able to join us today, you can find their contact information on the Academy's website. The Academy's website is adoptionart.org. Again, that is adoptionart.org. And we look forward to having you contact one of them. Thank you guys for spending your time today to explain New York, and hopefully people will reach out to you for their cases.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.